Well, hi there, friends. 6 a.m. on this Wednesday morning. Thanks so much for joining us on Up with KREM. I'm Channing Curtis.
And I'm Tim Pham. Well, hey, we are halfway through the week.
We are.
Only 2 more sleeps till the weekend. I always count like how many more alarms I have to wake up to. That's one of my things. All right, meteorologist Thomas Patrick is joining us. Thomas, it is also a very foggy Wednesday morning, though.
Yeah, I would count those alarms too if they didn't go off at 3 o'clock in the morning for me. But by that hour, it was already very foggy for the inland northwest. It is widespread fog for this morning, and some locations getting it worse than others, and it looks like Spokane County is in the thick of it. The airport is reporting near zero visibility at the moment. Quarter-mile visibility reports between Sandpoint, Coeur d'Alene as well, and there are a handful of locations between Moses Lake to Lewiston and elsewhere for the inland northwest that are seeing reductions in visibility. So at the moment, dense fog advisories issued until 11 o'clock this morning for Spokane and a handful of North Idaho locations, Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, Bonners Ferry. There's your Coeur d'Alene camera. Again, very foggy conditions, but be cautious because temperatures are right at 32 degrees, so that or below, and it's a freezing fog, and we could very well see some icy roadways or slick conditions.
Well, like Thomas just mentioned, we are seeing some dense fog and slick road conditions throughout our region this morning. So we sent our Nicole Hernandez out in the KREM 2 storm tracker to check out road conditions throughout the Spokane area. So Nicole, where are you right now and how are the roads where you are?
Hey Janet, yeah, we're on Northwest Boulevard right now, and take a look. You can see some of that fog. It's so hard to tell the fog on the cameras, but if you look kind of at the street lights or the street lamps, that you kind of see that fog settling in. Pretty much everywhere this morning has been at least somewhat foggy. Some spots, of course, worse than others. But the other thing we're seeing a lot of this morning is the ice on the roads. The South Hill in particular was really bad for those icy road conditions. Pretty much every street we were on, we were slipping and sliding while either trying to stop or make turns. Here down off the hill, it's a little bit more patchy. You just kind of end up hitting some patches here and there of slick, slippery conditions. But things are much better here. Like, you know, you can see that we just made a stop without sliding. Couldn't do that on the South Hill. It was much worse up there. Let's see if we can, I don't know if I look left, if we can actually see the cars going. There you go. You can see them moving along. People moving at a kind of normal clip down here off the hill. But even Channing was saying her drive up 195 and Hatch were also not great. So definitely be cautious no matter where you are heading out. The fog and the freezing temperatures, it just means moisture in the air and on our roads that is freezing. So be careful. And then if you want us to check out anywhere in particular, you can text us at 509-448-2000. We'll head that direction and let you know what roads are like in specific areas. In Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Thank you, Nicole. Now, this morning, 6 road crew members with the Washington Department of Transportation are now recovering after a suspected drunk driver crashed into the back of their trucks in Vancouver. WSDOT says that this happened just 90 seconds after workers got there to repair potholes. The 6 workers were taken to the hospital. They've all been released and sent home to recover.
After they got through the initial shock of everything, their spirits are surprisingly high. I mean, it takes a fun bunch to be able to go out and do the work that we do and then come back and still have a positive attitude.
So here's a look at the damage that was done to both WSDOT vehicles. We're told the driver was going 60 miles an hour when he hit the trucks. The Washington State Patrol arrested the driver on suspicion of DUI and vehicular assault.
Covering North Idaho, this morning, a new anti-drug trafficking bill is moving forward at the Idaho State House. House Bill 406 now heads to the House floor for a full vote. The bill does 2 things. First, it adds fentanyl to the list of drugs in Idaho that carry a mandatory minimum sentence. Secondly, the bill creates the crime of drug-induced murder. So this means if someone is given fentanyl and it kills that person, the person who gave it to them can be arrested and charged with murder.
These kinds of mandatory minimums deter the people we want to deter. They deter the big dealers, they deter the cartels.
Testified this policy will push traffickers to neighboring states and slow the flow of fentanyl into Idaho. But some lawmakers still held concerns that this law would grant the government the ability to prosecute trafficking without proving the intent to sell and murder without proving the intent to kill. The bill is expected to pass in the House, as the majority of the representatives in the House are sponsoring the bill. If it does pass, it will then head to the Senate for a vote there.
An initiative to end Washington's capital gains tax has been certified by the Secretary of State. It will now be sent to the state legislature for consideration. If lawmakers reject it or just don't take any action, the initiative would go on the ballot possibly as soon as November. Now, the tax is 7% on the sale or exchange of stocks, bonds, or other assets over $250,000. That money then goes to education and school construction. So far, it's brought in more than $896 million from less than 4,000 taxpayers across the state.
The time now is 6:06. Let's take a look at your morning rush. More news in less time. Brand new for you this morning, Kootenai County is now facing a federal lawsuit after the county denied a permit for a proposed cell tower. AT&T filed the suit after county commissioners voted against their application for the tower. Our news partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press report the proposed tower faced heavy criticism from the community. AT&T's suit claims that the denial was unlawful under federal regulations. Happening today, Kathy McMorris Rogers is expected to lead a roundtable with local, state, and federal officials about the ongoing wildfire cleanup efforts in Medical Lake and Elk. McMorris Rogers also sent a letter to President Biden this week asking for an update on Governor Jay Inslee's request for a major disaster declaration. That roundtable starts at 11 o'clock this morning at the Spokane County Courthouse. Boeing announced it will pause production of the 737 for one day to focus on quality control. That's happening tomorrow at its Renton factory. Boeing says employees will take part in working sessions focused on quality. The company will also hold one-day production pauses at other factories over the next few weeks. That is a look at your morning rush.
Former President Donald Trump added to his Iowa victory yesterday, picking up yet another win in the nation's first primary in New Hampshire.
CBS News correspondent Penny Commit has more on how the day unfolded from Manchester, New Hampshire.
Former President Donald Trump scored his second 2024 victory last night after his projected win in the New Hampshire Republican primary.
This is a fantastic state. This is a great, great state.
While addressing supporters, Trump made false election claims and threw more attacks at rival Nikki Haley.
She had a very bad night.
Despite her projected second place finish in New Hampshire, Haley is vowing to stay in the race.
New Hampshire is first in the nation. It is not the last in the nation. This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go.
CBS News exit polls show that Donald Trump's voters believe they're more conservative than Haley's voters, and our polls show that voters on both sides would be very dissatisfied if the other GOP candidate won the nomination.
I voted for Trump. He was great for the economy.
I voted for Nikki Haley. I'm afraid Trump is just too much chaos.
President Biden releasing a statement on the primary results saying it is now clear that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee, and adding, quote, the stakes could not be higher. The president picked up a win from New Hampshire Democrats despite not even appearing on the ballot, thanks to a grassroots writing campaign. Penny Commit, CBS News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
And still ahead in our next half hour on Up with KREM, CBS News correspondent Penny Commit will join us live from New Hampshire with the very latest on the race. You can catch that at 6:35 right here on Up with KREM.
Current time is 6:09 as we're taking some live looks across the traffic cameras. This would be Pines Road out of Spokane Valley. Very foggy conditions. You can definitely tell in the street lights there. And the fog is just half of the equation here. The other half is our temperatures, and anywhere that's 32 or below, well, that fog would be a freezing fog, and thus the road conditions can start to get pretty slippery with a glaze of ice that is starting to get laid down. And we've already noted that across Spokane County. The airport is reporting 32 degrees. We had about 31 on the South Hill and a bit closer to 32, 33 between downtown Spokane. So just a degree or two can make a big difference. Later today, we'll be tracking rainfall. It's already over the west side of the state, and this batch of precipitation is inbound. It'll be over central Washington this morning. It'll hit Spokane at about the noon hour today. So we'll transition very quickly from the fog straight to the rain by the afternoon.